Tina Hallerfan had no reason to question her husband's nickname. Everyone called Carl Jurg Jr. Fly, a name someone else had given him early in their relationship. Tina assumed it meant what it seemed to mean, that Carl was cool, stylish, or perhaps just the kind of guy who carried himself with a certain amount of confidence. Whatever the original reason, there was nothing particularly unusual about it. Eventually, Tina started calling him Fly herself. The nickname became part of their everyday lives. She would call for Fly, ask where Fly was, or introduce Carl using the name without giving it a second thought. As far as Tina knew, it was simply the name everyone had settled on. What she didn't know was that the nickname had nothing to do with Carl. It had to do with her. The person who originally gave Carl the nickname had a much less flattering explanation. Tina was, in the estimation of that particular individual, shit. Because flies are attracted to shit, her companion naturally became known as Fly. It was apparently considered hilarious. Tina, however, had never been let in on the joke. For years she had been unknowingly participating in it, casually calling her husband Fly, without realizing that the nickname was actually a reference to her. Then, after years of waiting, Carl's co-worker, Betty Wizard, decided it was finally time to reveal the truth at their annual Christmas party. Betty did not explain the joke. She bought 2 t-shirts. Tina received hers first. When she opened the package, she found a shirt bearing a simple declaration. "I'm the shit." Tina smiled, laughed, and looked very pleased with herself. As far as she knew, she had just received a pretty good Christmas present. Then Carl opened his. His shirt said, "I'm Fly." At first, everyone cheered and laughed. Someone suggested that Tina and Carl stand together for a photograph, and they did. It was only when they were standing side by side that the joke became clear. The crowd realized it first. Then Tina did. Her smile disappeared. Carl took a little longer. He looked at his shirt, looked at Tina's, and then apparently understood exactly what Fly had meant all those years. He stopped, smiling too. He looked scared. For the first time, Tina understood why everyone had always called Carl Fly. She understood why someone had given him that name in the first place. Perhaps worst of all, she understood that she had spent years helping to tell the joke every time she called her own husband by the nickname. The first shirt had fooled her completely. "I'm the shit" sounded like a compliment, and for a few moments, Tina was happy to be wearing it. Then she saw Carl's shirt, and she knew. Carl was Fly because she was shit. Now everyone at the Christmas party knew it too. The room, which had been full of laughter only moments earlier, suddenly became a much more complicated place. Betty Wizard, who had apparently been waiting years for this moment, had finally managed to explain the nickname without ever actually having to explain it. Tina and Carl were left standing together for the photograph, wearing matching shirts that revealed a joke Tina had unknowingly been participating in for years. The photograph was taken anyway. Somewhere behind the camera, Betty Wizard was probably having the best Christmas of her life. For Tina and Carl, however, the evening had become considerably less festive. After all, they had finally learned what Fly meant. They had learned it in front of everyone.
All right, let's jump right in. Today's explainer dives into a deeply unsettling story of deception, extreme patience, and just absolute social destruction. Because right beneath the totally mundane surface of everyday office parties, there lies a literal masterclass in the long con. We're going to unpack a plot that took years, and I mean years, to culminate in one single incredibly devastating moment.
But before we really get into the victims and the mastermind behind all of this, I want you to stop and ask yourself something. Do you actually know what your nickname really means? Or even the nicknames of the people you love? We all accept these little labels so quickly, right? We just fold them into our daily routines, completely oblivious to their true origins, the inside jokes, or, well, the potentially malicious intent of the people who originally coined them. So keep that thought in the back of your mind as we explore how one woman's totally innocent acceptance led to absolute, total humiliation.
Okay, let's meet our unsuspecting victim here, Tina Hullerfan. Now, Tina lived a totally normal, assuming life with her husband, Carl Jurg Jr. Early on in their relationship, somebody bestowed a moniker upon Carl, and it just stuck. Everyone simply called him Fly. That was it. It was just an undisputed fact within their social circle. Carl was Fly, and Fly was Carl. Now, naturally, Tina made a completely innocent assumption about where this name came from. To her, Carl being called Fly meant exactly what it does in popular culture, right? He was cool, he was stylish, he carried himself with this undeniable confidence. It was a really flattering compliment. I mean, why on earth would she ever question it? And honestly, here is where the tragic irony really kicks in. Tina didn't just passively accept the nickname. She adopted it entirely. It became a core part of her everyday life. She would literally call out for Fly around the house on a daily basis, and she actively introduced her husband to new people using that exact name. For years, she was unwittingly broadcasting a joke that she had absolutely no idea she was a part of. But wait, enter the mastermind of this whole thing, Betty Wizard. Betty was a coworker of Carl's. And as we sort of map out the architecture of this social destruction, we really have to recognize Betty as a patient, deeply calculating predator. She wasn't just looking for a quick laugh here. No way. She bided her time. She waited years, literally letting Tina repeat the joke day after day, year after year, just waiting for the absolute perfect, most devastating possible moment to strike. So that perfect moment finally arrives at the annual Christmas party. The festive, joyous atmosphere was just the ultimate backdrop for Betty's grand reveal. And the sheer evil genius of her plan was deciding to reveal the entire truth without uttering a single explanatory word. She was just going to let the evidence do all the talking. So Betty shows up at the party with two meticulously planned gifts. 2 t-shirts. Tina gets hers first. She tears open the festive packaging to find a shirt bearing this simple, bold declaration: "I'm the shit." And Tina smiled, she laughed, she looked incredibly pleased with herself, because as far as she knew, she had just received this rather edgy but highly flattering Christmas present. She happily puts it on, completely fooled, stepping right into the first half of the trap. Then it's Carl's turn. Carl opens his matching gift, revealing a shirt that simply read, "I'm Fly." Now, initially, this is met with just pure joy. The completely oblivious partygoers are cheering, they're laughing. It seems like a fantastic, hilarious couple's gag gift. Somebody in the crowd even shouts out a suggestion that Tina and Carl stand together for a photograph to commemorate this wonderful moment. And tragically, they obliged. And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates the trap springing shut. Just imagine the two shirts side by side. Tina's shirt, Carl's shirt. I'll give you a second to let the devastating biological connection actually click in your own mind, just exactly as it did for the attendees of that party. Because think about the actual mechanics of the joke. What are flies naturally attracted to? Excrement. The nickname had absolutely nothing to do with Carl being cool. It had everything to do with Tina. Because flies are attracted to shit, her ever-present companion naturally became known as Fly. You can almost see the psychological breakdown of the room happening in real time. First, within seconds, the crowd realized it, just this collective gasp of understanding. Then, minutes later, Tina figured it out. Her triumphant smile completely vanishes as the absolute horror washes over her. Now, Carl took a little longer. He looked at his shirt, then he looked at Tina's, and finally understood exactly what he had been called all those years. And he just looked scared. Carl was Fly because she was shit. Wow. I mean, just sit with the profound cruelty of that truth for a moment. For the very first time, Tina understood why someone had given him that name in the first place. But worst of all, she understood the deep, crushing reality that she had spent years, literally every single day, helping to tell a cruel joke at her own expense every time she lovingly called her husband by his nickname. So, as you can probably guess, the immediate aftermath was catastrophic. The room, which had been full of festive cheers and laughter literally moments earlier, suddenly became a much, much more complicated place. The festive atmosphere died instantly. It was completely replaced by this incredibly tense, thick, and utterly unfestive awkwardness. Everyone at the party knew the truth now. The secret was out, laid completely bare in bold lettering. But here is a detail of just pure tragicomedy. One photograph was actually taken anyway. Despite the horrible revelation setting in, despite the smiles melting into expressions of horror and fear, Tina and Carl were left standing together in their matching shirts. The trap had been sprung, the damage was done, and the flash of the camera captured the exact moment their entire reality shattered. And honestly, we have to acknowledge the architect of this whole thing. Betty Wizard had finally managed to explain the nickname to the entire social circle without ever actually having to explain it herself. Somewhere behind that camera, watching her years of patient waiting pay off in such spectacular fashion, well, Betty Wizard was likely experiencing the absolute greatest, best Christmas of her entire life. Now, to fully wrap our heads around the gravity of this event, we really need to briefly zoom out and look at the world where this happened, the EMToast universe. This is a deeply bizarre, totally surreal reality. I mean, this is a world where the true meaning of Thanksgiving involves King Kong fighting Godzilla in New Jersey, a place where the discovery that mummies are real causes literal existential crises for 9-year-olds, where archaeologists are out there unearthing the skeletons of 4-breasted women off Route 80. In a world that chaotic and absurd, Betty Wizard's hyper-focused, incredibly petty long con stands out as just a uniquely human, uniquely cruel masterpiece of social engineering. Which brings us right back to you. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought based on the absolute tragedy of Tina Hallerfen. You might think you're in on the joke. You might think you're wearing the shirt that says you're the greatest. But really look closely at the people standing next to you. Who is the real punchline in your life? Are you absolutely sure you haven't been participating in a lifelong inside joke that you just haven't figured out yet? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and hey, stay curious.
Welcome to the debate. We often think of truth as this, like a light switch. You flip it on, the room illuminates, and...
Right. Everyone is safer because you can finally see what's actually there.
Exactly. But, well, what happens when turning on that light reveals that everyone else in the room has been silently laughing at you in the dark?
Yeah, that is a brutal realization.
It really is. Today we're unpacking the social mechanics behind, well, a very specific event. We're looking at Betty Wizard exposing the true meaning of Carl Jurg Jr.'s nickname, Fly.
Right, because for years, his wife, Tina Hallerfen, affectionately called him Fly. She assumed it meant he was cool or stylish.
Which he probably wasn't.
No, definitely not. She had no idea the nickname was this deeply insulting reference to her, the joke being that Carl was a fly because he was attracted to, well, shit.
Yep. And Betty Wizard finally exposed this at an annual Christmas party by gifting the couple matching T-shirts. So our core question today is this. Was Betty's orchestrated stunt a necessary, if harsh, act of truth-telling to protect Tina, or was it just, an act of performative cruelty?
Right.
I stand on the side that it was a required correction of a really toxic, ongoing injustice.
And I argue that the highly public, theatrical nature of this stunt turned it into a blatant act of malicious shaming.
Well, just look at what Tina's daily life was actually like, though. She was unknowingly complicit in her own mockery. Every time she called for him, she was unwittingly degrading herself.
Sure, but...
Because the nickname explicitly meant Carl was a fly attracted to shit, her casual, daily use of the name wasn't just innocent ignorance. It was a continuous, active deception by literally everyone around her. Betty's intervention finally shattered an illusion that desperately needed breaking.
Yeah, but the issue isn't the revelation itself, though. It's the methodology.
How so?
Well, when you weaponize the truth just to entertain yourself, you lose any moral high ground you had in revealing it. I mean, waiting years to gift these matching I'm the shit and I'm fly shirts.
It's definitely a bold move.
It's vindictive. Doing it at an annual holiday party of all places, Betty prioritized her own amusement over Tina's dignity. If this were truly about protecting Tina, she would have told her in private, years ago.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Think about the medical procedure of setting a broken bone.
Okay.
It's excruciatingly painful in the moment, right? The doctor has to use intense force. But that acute, immediate pain is structurally necessary for proper long-term healing.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Is it? Isn't forcing a harsh, undeniable public truth ultimately better than allowing Tina to spend her entire lifetime unknowingly participating in a cruel joke?
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. Your analogy assumes the doctor's primary goal is actually healing the patient.
Which Betty did. She cured the lie.
No, look at the accounts of that night. Betty orchestrated a specific photo op. She didn't just hand over the shirts. She waited for them to stand side by side so the entire crowd would understand the punchline before Tina did.
Oh, the timing was definitely deliberate.
Exactly. Carl looked terrified, and Tina's smile completely vanished as the realization hit. Betty engineered a spectacle where she could watch the devastation unfold. She was essentially having the best Christmas of her life, which proves the motive was malice, not liberation.
I will concede that the delivery was exceptionally tough on Tina, but look at the broader social dynamics of that room. The accounts note that the party, which had been full of laughter, suddenly became a much more complicated, uncomfortable place.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Right. By making it public, Betty didn't just expose the joke to Tina. She exposed the complicity of the entire crowd. Doesn't that sudden silence serve a vital secondary purpose?
You mean punishing the bystanders?
Yes. It actively punished all those bystanders who had been comfortably participating in this cruelty for years.
I mean, even if it did punish the crowd, making Tina the punchline of a second joke just to put an end to the first one, it corrupts the whole revelation.
I hear that, but from a purely objective standpoint, truth, even when delivered theatrically, is preferable to living a lie. Tina no longer operates under a humiliating deception.
Well, we definitely agree on one thing. The original joke labeling Tina was inherently cruel from the start. Nobody is defending the nickname itself.
Exactly. The profound complexities of truth-telling and social dynamics rarely offer a clean, painless exit. Which brings us back to that light switch.
Right.
When you finally illuminate a room that's been dark for years, does the value of finally seeing the truth justify the shock of what you find? We leave that for you to decide.
Imagine you have been using a specific phrase for years.
Right.
Like, it is just a seamless part of your daily vocabulary. You drop it in casual conversation. You use it as a term of endearment. I mean, you basically weave it into the very fabric of your domestic life with your partner.
Yeah, you don't even think about it anymore.
Exactly. Now, I want you to picture standing in a room full of people that you consider your absolute closest friends.
Okay, setting the scene.
The atmosphere is festive, right? The drinks are flowing, everyone is laughing, and suddenly you discover that you had absolutely no idea what that word actually meant.
Oh, wow.
And the reality of it is actually much worse than just a simple misunderstanding.
Right.
You realize that the true meaning of this word was an elaborate joke, and you were the punchline the entire time.
Man, that is just, well, it is the ultimate social nightmare.
It really is.
It is that stomach-dropping sensation of walking into a room, hearing everyone laughing, and slowly, chillingly realizing that they are laughing at you.
Yeah.
And they have been for a very long time.
It is terrifying. And today, we have a fascinating source to guide this deep dive into that exact nightmare.
Yes, we do.
It is an article dated August 8, 2026, and we pulled it from a very peculiar corner of the internet. Specifically, it is from the Absurd World News section of a website called EMToast, and it is written by the EMToast staff.
Which, I mean, that is a venue known for stories that stretch the absolute limits of reality, to put it mildly.
Yeah, totally. And we will definitely get into the bizarre context of that publication later. But our mission today is to take this seemingly strange little story and just completely deconstruct it.
Right.
We are going to examine a years-long social experiment masked as a harmless nickname. And we are going to explore the psychological weight of being on the outside of an inside joke for years without ever, suspecting a thing.
Because that is the real core of it.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. To really grasp the sheer impact of this story's climax, we first have to establish the comfortable, blissfully ignorant reality that our subjects lived in for years.
Yeah, because you really cannot appreciate the destruction of a social dynamic without first understanding how solid the foundation appeared to be.
That is a great point. So we are introduced to a couple. Their names are Tina Hallerfan and her husband, Carl Jurg Jr.
Right.
And early on in their relationship, someone in their social circle gave Carl a nickname. They called him Fly.
Just fly.
Just a single syllable. Simple, catchy, super easy to slip into casual conversation.
And well, Tina makes a massive assumption about this nickname right out of the gate.
She does.
She assumes fly is a compliment.
Yeah.
I mean, in her mind, it means Carl is cool, he is stylish, he carries himself with a certain amount of swagger and confidence.
Yeah.
He is essentially a fly guy.
A fly guy, exactly. And I want to focus on her reaction to that because Tina does not just tolerate this nickname, she actively adopts it.
She leans all the way in.
She completely makes it her own, like she uses it daily. The source implies she would literally shout across the house asking where Fly is.
Oh my gosh.
Or she would introduce him to new people at parties by saying, have you met Fly?
Wow.
She just completely owns it. It feels like proudly wearing a vintage band t-shirt for a decade, right?
Oh, totally.
Like you wear it because you think it makes you look edgy. You think you are projecting this super cool aesthetic to the world.
Right, you feel great in it.
And then one day somebody just pulls you aside and says, hey, that band's name is actually a highly specific, deeply personal insult directed entirely at you, right?
It is just crushing. And, that vintage t-shirt analogy is a perfect distillation of what is happening here.
Really?
Yeah, it speaks to a fundamental function of the human brain. We have a profound tendency to project positive attributes onto ambiguity.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when presented with a piece of information that lacks clear context, like a random nickname just appearing in a social circle out of nowhere, our brains naturally reject the uncertainty.
Right, we don't like not knowing things.
Exactly. We fill in the blanks. And when those blanks involve the people we love, we fill them in with narratives that make our world feel safe, predictable, and flattering.
But is it really just cognitive bias, though? I mean, or is it just baseline trust?
How do you mean?
Well, you shouldn't have to put your spouse's pet names for you through a polygraph test,
That is true.
If my partner's friends start calling her a cute nickname, my first instinct isn't going to be to launch a full-scale investigation into its etymology.
Right. And that is a crucial distinction. It is baseline trust acting as a catalyst for cognitive bias.
Ah, I see.
Because you trust your partner, and presumably you trust your shared social circle, your brain just lowers its defensive filters. You don't audit the mundane details of your domestic life.
No, of course not. You just accept them.
Yeah, so Tina's brain took an ambiguous data point, the word fly, and just built a comfortable reality out of it. Because the alternative, the idea that her friends were secretly mocking her, that requires a level of paranoia most healthy people do not walk around with.
Yeah, you would have to be incredibly cynical to jump to that conclusion.
Absolutely.
And I think that trust brings us to the real tragic irony of this entire situation. Tina was not just a passive victim of this joke.
No, she was active.
Right. By adopting the nickname, she was unwittingly winding up the toy herself. Every single time she called him Fly, she was actively keeping the joke alive.
Yes.
Which forces us to look at the actual mechanics of the insult, like what was the joke and who engineered it?
Yeah, and this is where the narrative shifts away from a quirky, harmless misunderstanding and reveals something much colder.
It gets really dark. We find out the true, highly unflattering origin of the nickname. The creator of this moniker, who was someone from early in Carl and Tina's relationship, believed that Tina, to put it as bluntly as the EMToast article does, was shit.
Yeah.
And because flies are naturally attracted to shit, her companion, Carl, became Fly.
The logic is just so cruel.
It is brutal.
It operates on a stark mathematical structure, like A equals B, therefore C. It is an insult wrapped completely in an association.
Wait, I have to challenge how this practically works in the real world, though.
Okay.
Like, how does an entire social circle keep a secret this mean for years?
It is wild to think about.
The source mentions that literally everyone called him Fly. Are we supposed to believe that in all those years, after countless dinners, holiday parties, casual hangouts where people are having drinks and letting their guard down, not a single person slipped up?
Right. Nobody spilled the beans.
And what about Carl? I mean, was Carl entirely oblivious, or was he living in deep denial just to protect his ego?
That is the million-dollar question.
How do you look your wife in the eye while your friends call you a name that implies she is literal excrement?
What's fascinating here is the sociological mechanics at play when a group shares a transgressive secret.
Okay, tell me about that.
What we're looking at is a textbook, albeit extreme, example of in-groups versus out-groups. When a group of people shares a taboo secret, it acts as a remarkably powerful bonding mechanism. The nickname Fly basically ceased to be just a name. It became a silent, ongoing ritual of group cohesion.
So the cruelty was actually the glue holding them together.
Exactly. Every time someone called Carl Fly in front of Tina, and she smiled or enthusiastically responded to it, the group experienced a shared thrill.
Oh, wow. That is messed up.
It is a collective exercise in superiority. They know something she does not. The fact that Tina unwittingly participated in it, that she used the name herself, is what made it intoxicating to the in-group.
It fed the fire.
Yeah. Maintaining the secret didn't feel like a burden to them. It felt like an inside joke that paid dividends every single time they hung out. Her ignorance was literally the fuel that kept the fire burning for years.
Man, it transforms every casual barbecue or birthday party into a theater production where Tina is the only person on stage who doesn't have the script.
Perfect way to put it.
But, you mentioned earlier that secrets of this magnitude, secrets that require this much social energy to maintain, they have a shelf life.
They always do.
The pressure builds. I mean, a joke is only funny if it eventually reaches a punchline.
Right. They're inherently designed to be revealed. A secret like this wants to be let out of the cage. It just requires a very specific type of personality to decide to actually open the door.
And that brings us to the orchestrator of the reveal.
Yes.
Enter Betty Wizard. She is a coworker of Carl's. And we need to spend some time analyzing Betty because her methodology is truly diabolical.
It is next level.
Betty decides that the annual Christmas party is the venue to detonate this social bomb. And she doesn't just, stand up, clink her glass, and explain the joke verbally.
No, that would be too easy.
Right. She doesn't pull Tina aside out of a sense of moral obligation either. No. She goes out and buys 2 custom T-shirts as Christmas presents.
She physicalizes the joke.
Yes.
She takes an abstract verbal concept
Yeah.
and turns it into hard, concrete evidence.
And think about the logistics of that. Betty had to go to a custom print shop or, order these online. She had to select the sizes, choose the font, wait for them to ship, fold them, and wrap them in festive paper.
Yeah, the effort is crazy.
There is a chilling level of premeditation here. It's so calculated. So at the party, Tina, blissfully unaware, opens her present first. She unwraps the package and finds a shirt with a very simple, bold declaration printed on it. It says, "I'm the shit."
And her immediate emotional reaction to this physical object is the linchpin of Betty's entire plan.
Exactly. Tina smiles, she laughs, she is genuinely thrilled. As far as she knows, she just got a fantastic, slightly edgy Christmas present from her husband's coworker.
Right, she loves it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have to appreciate the absolute brilliance of Betty's psychological trap here.
Oh, it is genius.
The shit is modern slang. It means you are awesome, you are the top tier, you are the best. Betty essentially built a Trojan horse out of a compliment.
Yes, exactly.
She ensured that Tina would feel celebrated, and most importantly, that her emotional guard would be completely dropped.
It is a masterclass in misdirection. Betty intentionally elevates Tina's emotional state. She pushes her to the highest possible peak of comfort and self-satisfaction.
Building her up just to tear her down.
Exactly, so that the impending fall will be as steep and as damaging as possible. I mean, if she had just handed Tina a shirt with a generic insult, her defense mechanisms would go up immediately.
Right, she would have pushed back.
But by using modern slang to disguise the insult as praise, she bypasses the defenses entirely.
Then the fall actually happens. Carl opens his present. His shirt simply says, "I'm FLY."
Oh boy.
Now, the source material implies a very specific, suffocating sequence of events here, and I think we need to luxuriate in the excruciating pacing of this moment.
We really do, because the realization does not happen all at once. It washes over the room in distinct waves.
First, Carl opens the shirt. At that initial second, the vibe is still light, right? It's a Christmas party. People are holding drinks. Someone inevitably says, "Oh, you guys have to stand together for a photograph."
Of course they do.
So they shuffle together, they pose. And it is only when they are standing side by side that the physics of the joke lock into place.
Right.
Wave 1, the crowd gets it, the in-group, they see the 2 shirts together. I'm the shit standing right next to I am FLY. The visual completes the circuit. The secret they have held for years is suddenly printed in bold text in the middle of the room.
You can just imagine the sudden shift in the quality of the laughter in that room.
Oh, yeah.
It transitions from this polite, festive holiday cheer to something much more charged. like perhaps a collective intake of breath as the in-group realizes the silent joke has just been made deafeningly loud.
And the crowd's reaction is just the fuse. The real explosion is wave 2, when Tina finally gets it.
This part is so tough.
She is standing there, radiating pride in her new shirt, probably looking around at her friends, and she notices that shift in their eyes. The energy in the room has gone sour.
Yeah.
She looks over at Carl's shirt. She looks down at her own, and in a fraction of a second, her brain does the brutal math. The slang compliment, that Trojan horse, dissolves. It morphs instantly from "I am awesome" to the literal biological insult.
The drop is just devastating.
And the source provides a very understated but haunting detail. It says, her smile disappeared. Just a complete erasure of joy.
The social landscape she has comfortably inhabited for years is completely rewritten in an instant.
Just gone. Then we hit the final wave, wave 3. Carl gets it. The text specifically notes that he took a little longer to piece it together.
Right, he's a bit slower on the uptake.
He looks at his shirt, he looks at Tina's shirt, and then the realization of what Fly has meant this entire time hits him. And the source gives us a vital detail about his reaction. He didn't just stop smiling, he looked scared.
And we really have to ask ourselves why Carl looked scared, rather than just confused or angry.
Yeah, why fear?
This points directly back to your earlier question about his complicity. If he truly did not know the origin of the nickname, his fear is multifaceted.
Okay.
First, it is the shock of the insult directed at his wife, obviously. But second, and far more terrifying, is the sudden realization of his own role in it.
Oh, man.
He's standing next to his wife, wearing a shirt that publicly mocks her, realizing he has unwittingly allowed an entire social circle to subtly degrade her for years.
Yeah, even if he was completely ignorant, he was the primary vehicle for the insult. His name was the weapon.
Exactly. He realizes in that moment that he has failed to protect her. And simultaneously, he realizes that his wife, who just experienced a catastrophic public humiliation, is standing right next to him.
Oh, the tension.
That fear is the anticipation of her impending, entirely justified wrath. He is looking down the barrel of a relationship-defining crisis. He has to explain to her that he didn't know while wearing a shirt that strongly suggests he did.
A bomb has gone off in the middle of this Christmas party. It changes the physical and emotional geometry of that room forever. The air has been completely sucked out.
Utterly suffocating.
It goes from a holiday gathering to a hostage situation of awkwardness. But here's the most surreal detail of the entire event. The photograph is taken anyway.
I mean, the sheer momentum of the social ritual carries them through the trauma.
It is crazy.
People are so conditioned to smile for a camera that the physical action happens even as the psychological reality is crumbling around them.
The camera flash goes off. Tina and Carl are left standing there, frozen in this horrific realization, literally wearing the evidence of their own humiliation.
Yeah.
And somewhere behind the camera, lurking in the background, is Betty Wizard. And the article notes she is probably having the best Christmas of her life.
I bet she is.
She achieved the perfect execution. She explained the joke to everyone without ever actually explaining it. She completely weaponized context.
And we really have to wonder what happens in the immediate aftermath, after that flash fades.
Right.
Imagine the car ride home for Carl and Tina. The heavy, suffocating silence in that car. The intense interrogation of every single memory they share with those friends.
Oh, that would be agonizing.
Every dinner party, every shared vacation. Tina's going to replay every single time she enthusiastically shouted, "Fly," across a crowded room, realizing that it echoes back as an insult.
Every memory they have with those friends is now permanently tainted. The foundation of their social world has a massive crack running right down the middle of it.
It is ruin.
Now, I want to pull back slightly because we have to talk about the surrounding context of this source material. We pulled this from EMToast's Absurd World News section.
Yes, we did.
And to give you an idea of the universe this story lives in, we really have to look at the other articles published right alongside it.
Because the environment in which a text is published is often just as revealing as the text itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Listen to these headlines on the exact same site. A 9-year-old boy taking his own life after learning mummies are real. The true meaning of Thanksgiving actually being an ancient battle between King Kong and Godzilla.
Right.
A 4-breasted woman's skeleton being discovered on Route 80 in New Jersey. And an old man getting, blown to the head by a neighbor.
It is just bizarre.
It is a parade of the grotesque, the surreal, and the completely ridiculous. I mean, I'm looking at these other headlines. Mummies, Godzilla,
I bet.
cartoonish skeletons, and it's just pure shock value fiction.
Yeah, it is entirely absurd.
So why did I feel actual, genuine anxiety reading about this nickname? Like, what is the psychological difference here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the distinction becomes very clear. While the venue itself is absurd, and those other stories rely on monsters or fantastical biology, the core terror of the Fly story is universally painfully human.
Yeah, it really is.
It relies on a very deep-seated, primal fear of public humiliation.
It taps into an anxiety almost everyone carries.
Exactly. It is the fear that the people around you, the people you trust, know something terrible about you that you do not know yourself.
Right.
It is about the sudden, violent shifting of your social reality. I mean, Tina thought she was a safe space, surrounded by friends who respected her and her husband.
Yeah, she felt secure.
And in the span of a single camera flash, that reality shattered, revealing a landscape where she was actually the victim of a long-term coordinated mockery. That is not absurd fiction.
No, not at all.
That is a very real, grounded psychological horror. It is the realization that you are not the protagonist of your own life. You are the comic relief in someone else's.
Wow. So what does this all mean? When you step back and look at it, the story of Carl Flygerg Jr. and Tina Hallerfan is not just about a mean prank orchestrated by a coworker at a holiday party.
Not at all.
It is a stark cautionary tale. It is a warning about the things we blindly accept as normal in our daily lives.
Yeah.
It is about the danger of assumptions and how our deep desire for a comfortable narrative can blind us to the cruelty hiding in plain sight.
We so desperately want to believe the best about the people around us that we just ignore the warning signs. And, I think there is one more layer to this, something for you to consider long after this deep dive is over.
Oh, let's hear it.
Ponder the sheer longevity of the words we use and how their meanings can evolve or devolve over time. Once a nickname, or really any word, is untethered from its original origin and spoken 1,000 times, does it become a new word altogether?
That is a fascinating question.
In Tina's mind, fly truly meant something beautiful and complimentary for years. Did her sincere belief temporarily change the reality of the word for her? Or is the original malice always lying dormant underneath, waiting like a time bomb for someone like Betty Wizard to light the fuse?
Oh.
I encourage you to take a look at your own life. What traditions, what inside jokes, or what casual labels are you actively participating in right now? And could they be carrying a secret history, a quiet malice that you are completely blind to?
That is a brilliant and, frankly, slightly terrifying thought to end on. Check your nicknames and question your inside jokes, people. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time. Goodbye.